Welcome to PTG TV. This is your host, Antonio Hicks, aka Escaping the Matrix, with my co-host, Ms. Tamika Day. Welcoming back our two guests together this time, Ms. Meymoona Freeman and Brian Morris of SMAC, and to talk about, now that Kemp has agreed to remove the Confederate flags, what's next on the agenda for the both of them. So thank you two for coming back, and let's celebrate. Let's sing, celebrate. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations on what you all have done and the work that you have put in. I appreciate that as a native of Stone Mountain, because I told y'all my story about all the times I've gone up there and the things I've had to deal with and dealing with the Confederacy and everything else around Stone Mountain. So thank you. And I salute you both for the hard work that you have done to get these things removed from out of Stone Mountain itself. So thank you all and welcome back to the show. And welcome back, Tamika, because I ain't seen you in a minute either.
I know, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio.
So, how do y'all feel about it? First, let's get y'all opinion on it. I see y'all smiling.
There's a lot of different directions to go with this. Brian, go ahead. You tell your thoughts, and then we'll go forward from there.
Okay. Well, Antonio, I appreciate your kind words, but I'd have to say the governor's words are just that as well. I hate to yak in your yum, but no flags have moved yet. Nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was supposed to be a meeting on May 17th with SMAC, public meeting again.
Mm-hmm.
Pushed back now to May 24th, in typical style for them. But yes, look, words for at this point don't mean a lot to me. That's great. That's wonderful. But nothing's really changed. No flags have come down. They've also proposed that the flags stay in the park, just in a separate area, or different area. So there's been progress as far as change at the top of the house within the board.
Mm-hmm.
The messaging is consistent, is in that we're going to do something, but nothing has happened. It's good to have conversations that seem to be progressive, but at this point in time, we're nowhere different than we were last time we talked, in very blunt terms. So there's no celebration until change actually occurs, in my opinion.
So can I jump in real quick, May?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
what do you think about the businesses then? Like, what do you think their step is going to be, since they're the ones that kind of actually help to push the conversation in the first place with them backing out?
They're only there at this point because of contractual responsibilities. They've already told the park and its management team that they're gone effective next year around June. So that blow has been dealt. The board, in my opinion, has done a pretty weak job in responding. Reality is reality. You lose 50% of your revenues. You can't just blame COVID. You've seen most of the economy come roaring back, especially in recreational and tourist type areas.
Mm-hmm.
Not the case with Stone Mountain Park. So you can't blame the pandemic at this point anymore. You got to blame your core issues that you haven't dealt with for years.
Well, I guess that just ruins that. So I guess I retract that back. And I hate that, because I hate the fact that, and I think we did kind of talk about it too. I'm like, they're going to use it as a selling tool to, I think it's Helen May about to try to win over some votes and try to get some brownie points or whatever. And I guess that's just what it was. He just put it out there to make it seem like he was doing a good job. But like you said, no action has taken place. And I'm with you on that too now. I'm all for, I'd rather see something done as opposed to some words. So I was thinking, I guess it's just me assuming that once they put it out on actual paper, that some things were going to take place, because, in corporate America, once you put something in writing, you kind of held to the fire on it.
That's not how it is in politics, and you know that. Politics can be drugged. We can state something in a month, and then it may take 3 years before you ever see any action on it or something like that. So, well, May, I do have a question for you. I wanted to ask you, I know you put in a lot of work with just organizing and bringing people together to fight for a particular cause or an issue. So my question to you is, how do you organize and how do you stay committed when you may or may not get the response or the reaction that you're hoping for in any type of action that you're trying to get done?
Yeah, well, I think consistency is everything. Being clear with what your mission is and being clear with everybody, all stakeholders. Everybody needs to know what your mission is. I think that's one of the most important things to do as an organizer, especially with this kind of work. There's a lot of different, angles to look at it. There's a lot of different people who have different things that motivate them, whether that's your opposition or the people that you're working with. So I think being consistent is where the difference that makes the difference. And also being consistent is letting people know, especially your adversaries and people who are against what it is that you want to do, letting them know clearly that you're not going anywhere, that you're only going to get bigger and louder and more disruptive to their system. That is, I think, the essence of any movement is that consistency. People knowing that you're going to keep showing up, that you're going to keep on fighting, and that you're not going to be bought or sold or pushed out or ignored or dismissed. And I think that that's one of the things that movements are made of, is that consistency. So I would say if you don't have something you believe in to the extent that you can say, I will not give up, then you gotta find your passion, you know what I mean? But the mission doesn't end until you get to your final goals. As far as the Confederate monuments and particularly Stone Mountain, this is a big picture. We are trying to disassemble a whole power structure here. And this is the good old South. People don't change that fast. As much as we would like them to move, and as much as we would like them to come to Jesus moments, and just realize like, this is wrong. Like, it's common sense. Do we still need to talk about this? Why are we debating this, right? Why is this an issue? This is public funds. This is not a private park. This is a public park. Why are we even having this discussion at this day and age, 2021, with all that has happened? It should be a non-discussion. But we have a system that is resistant to change. I don't want to bring politics into this too much, but you see the South unites behind bullshit, okay? One example is they started in Texas, the recount, right? Oh, God. And the man who is sitting on the board of the SMMA was one of the people who pushed this idea that we were stealing the vote and that we were committing fraud in Georgia and all these things. So you can believe that when Texas gets done with their so-called recount, they're going to come back to Georgia and they're going to recycle that same agenda again. People do not like change. They cannot accept the fact that people are voting, that there are people who are of diverse backgrounds are in politics, and that their politics are affecting change. All of this is resistance. So when I hear the governor is going to change things, I'm very excited about the admission of it. But I absolutely agree with Brian. Those flags don't take but 2 seconds to get down. Why are they still up? Okay. Yeah. The names of the streets. I hope that these corporate partners will come to the understanding that so-called change, which has changed the streets on the outside of the park, is unacceptable. Unacceptable. These things are very simple. They don't cost any money. They're not protected by law. They're just not. It's subject to interpretation. You can use these things as excuses. So what I see as far as Stone Mountain is concerned, I see a shift that only came as a result of the economic and corporate push. And Brian is very much part of that machine that has pushed these corporations to face reality, okay? And that corporate push is the only thing I think that has made them acknowledge that they need to rethink things. That's the only thing. This is not a moral thing. This is not transformation. And that's what we ask for. We ask for transformation, progress, and healing. I don't see anything healing going on. Do y'all?
No, I do not at all.
What you think, Brian? I know you've been, like she said, in the corporate and economic push and fighting. And I know sometimes you do. I know for me, I'm just like, do I give up? Do I quit? And how do you keep going? How do you keep responding? What are some actions or some recommendations that you could give people who are listening or watching about organizing and being consistent and following through with your mission and your passion and just believing in something?
I think May hit it on the head. It's consistency and approach. You have to be systematic in your messaging, and once you do get some incremental progress, you have to go back with, and I need this. You can't finish. You've got to keep going. I will say that our friends at Marriott have been excellent in their communication and their willingness to listen to our concerns and actually do something about it. Frankly, Coca-Cola continues to be a brand name sponsor of the park, and their logo is everywhere, and yet they continue to say one thing and do nothing. Especially when it comes to Stone Mountain, and frankly, some of their other internal stuff has been difficult to watch over recent months. I don't know if you have, seen some of the progressive things that they were doing within their general counsel's office in basically demanding that their outside law firms have a diverse pool of employees, or they were going to be kicked off the Coca-Cola docket. And unfortunately, their new GC that they just brought in from Ford, Brad Gayton, lasted all of 9 months at Coca-Cola, and he's already been replaced. So with a long-time Coca-Cola employee. So it's little things like that sort of just light your fuse and make you aware of the hypocrisy within some of these corporate cultures that say they're going to be progressive and do things, and then again, similar to Governor Kemp, this just works.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, on that topic alone, especially in my field, working in IT, you see a lot of that across corporations where they're pushing a certain agenda, but then when you look up top, you don't see anything that looks like what they say they're trying to do on the outside. In the boardrooms, on executive staffs, you see a speck here and there of diversity, but once you move up past that position, there is no diversity whatsoever.
Or women. A lot of times we think of diversity just to be race related, but a lot of times there's a lot of men still in the boardroom, and there's not even a woman at all that may sit in those seats, or that may be on council, or that you may be even getting advice from. So as we are continuing to try to talk about these issues and push forward and run for office, these are just some big things that we have to truly discuss and stay on the forefront of it. So we appreciate it. Sonia, what's your question? Oh, go ahead, May.
I would like to just say something in regards to what you just said. Is very relevant. I have been very engaged for a while with the SMMA as it's changed and it's rearranged and all these different things that are going on. Just to catch viewers up, we have Reverend Mosley, who has been on the board since 2019. There are 2 African-American men who sit on the board. And my understanding is they are the 4th African-Americans, 3rd and 4th African-Americans to sit on the board, the 2 current ones. And Reverend Mosley had been a member of the SMMA, and he was recently appointed to be the chairman of the board. So this is historic in the sense that we have the first African-American man, or African-American period, to head this board. Now, the irony of that, and I've seen a couple of headlines that made my eyebrows go up. And the irony of that is that you are the first African-American chairman of a board that is essentially established to maintain the Confederacy. There's such an irony to that. Now, here's another level. I always discuss, and this is my going thing, is a seat at the table. The sister who was at the door knocking and wanted to come in and see 531 being signed. Parker, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Parker. Representative Parker, was it Parks? I'm sorry. Is it Parks or Parker, y'all?
I think it's Parks.
Okay. So Representative Parks, she was knocking at the door and she wanted to basically have a seat at the table. And she was arrested. But this table is a very big deal in America because the table is where the deals are done, where the money moves. It is where the people who count, they get the pen, they decide, they sign, they make agreements. And one of the things that I see also that needs to happen is even within the SMMA, despite its so-called purpose, I believe that it needs diversity at the board in a lot of ways, diversity of political and different backgrounds. And that's something it doesn't have. And so in my conversations with Reverend Mosley, the current chairman of the SMMA, I discussed with him the fact that they do not have any African-American women or ever had any African-American women sit on that board. And I promise you, and I'm gonna say this publicly, I have been offered the opportunity to potentially sit on that board, and I will absolutely take it because my only goal is to dismantle every bit of the Confederacy. And if I can be that vote, and when you do the math, you need the vote, I would absolutely only sit on that board or even support others who sit on that board so that we can have diversity of mind and remove the Confederacy from the inside out. And so I agree with you. A lot of times Black women are dismissed, not present, absent, and arrested if we try to sit at the table.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, yes, we need representation everywhere, and I mean because we see what representation can do, especially in Gwinnett County. Because I mean, a lot of us, well, all of us, is coming from this area. You see that before it got diversified, it was small. They didn't have the schools that they have right now, and now Gwinnett County is praised for their school system, but that wouldn't have come had it not been for the diversity that came into the area. Because when I was growing up here, you know, it was a Confederacy. Even where I live at right now in Loganville, I told y'all that it was a lot of KKK people out here, and now you have. I was talking to Kendra Roll last night. And we was talking about how even in these small areas, apartments now, the minimum is like $1,200 a month, and they're building houses out here for $250,000. I didn't see any of that growing up because it was all farmland. So with so much growth taking place and so much diversity around the area, now you have income coming in and tax dollars that you can start building out these things. But even with all of that, like you just said, we don't even have a seat at the table. And it's only now. And even now, I forget who the young lady is out here now that just got into office. She's trying to get her income increased to look like those other commissioners around the other counties. And they're having issue with that. And I'm like, why can't she get paid the same thing? Other people sitting in the same position in other counties get paid their same salaries. So yes, huh? No, go ahead.
It's not only about just having a seat at the table, it's having support. And I think sometimes when we get the seat at the table, you'll be surprised at people that look like us or other people. They do not support other women. So we get the seat at the table, but then we don't have the board underneath. And so we have to be diligent about putting people in place, not just for the photo ops and for what looks good and sounds good, but we have to have people that are represented on the board that's gonna vote, like she said, pass the agenda. So a lot of times when we're voting for, I know we're not going to get too political, but we have to elected officials, you may see that person that you're voting for, but you never go back and say, who sits on the Water and Sewer Authority Board? Who sits on the Economic Development Board? Because a lot of times the leaders of those boards make up these other large boards. And so we got to understand what the face of a brand look like. Mm-hmm. And then what's underneath that brand and where the support is really coming from. So we know that there's still work to do in every city, in every county, especially in Georgia. And it's only going to get better the more we keep having these discussions. And I think just waking people up, I think people are still asleep. And until it becomes something so big that a governor signs into law or something, people only start to pay attention then. So Brian, you've been a little quiet. What you think?
Brian, like you're doing some research.
Look, I think your commentary is point on with the subject we're talking about. Reverend Mosley, being the chairperson is a phenomenal opportunity to have somebody that rightfully should be sitting there. However, the composition of the rest of the board hasn't changed. The former chairman is still there. We know how he's going to vote. I have my concerns that he doesn't have the 5 votes he needs to make change. So we're having these great conversations and nice pictures in the paper, like you said, nice photographs, but no real change. And so look, none of us should be happy until there's real change, and it should be change that we want, not that's overwhelmingly light compromise in the wrong direction. We want the flags down, we want the park changed, we want it to be a park for everybody, not a place where, I don't know if you saw the cartoon in the AJC where it's Confederate on one side and non-Confederate on the other. That just continues to make the state look like a joke.
Right. And what's even interesting about that is, one of the things I talk about is that the people that's trying to keep that stuff in place don't even live around the area. So I was like, you're working so diligently to keep all these things up, but you don't even reside within that area or that county. So I'm like, why are you working so hard to keep these flags and this monument in place when only time you really show up is when you're having a protest to drive your bikes around Stone Mountain and show that you still exist. But outside of that, you're not here spending money in the downtown area of Stone Mountain. So you're not contributing towards businesses there, which that will help out your agenda if you was doing that. You're not bringing businesses back into that area to even say that, okay, well, you support my stuff. Let me go ahead and continue pushing you and have a presence there. You're not doing any of those things to add towards those tax dollars to help lift it up. Why do you care so much about a Confederacy still being present? And you feel as though that you're being wiped away. We know you're not going anywhere. You make it known you're not going anywhere when you have protests everywhere. And like I was talking about in Brunswick, and I'm glad the spotlight is being put on us right now, because you see these monuments still up in places and you see how they have disenfranchised people and how they're targeting certain communities. And I'm like, why have they not been taken down as of yet? But I'm glad, and even though there are words and they're making all these promises, I'm just glad they're just saying it right now, because how long has it took for us to even get to that point?
Well said.
Because like at least the discussion is being had, and they might be false promises, but they wouldn't even go as bold to even say that years ago. At least now we're in a position they can see that we have some form of economic power. And if we push hard enough, if you might not want to make that change, but we can make sure your pockets hurt bad enough to where you want to make that change, because you need those donations and you need those dollars to contribute towards your next election cycle or anything that you're trying to do around this state.
Absolutely. And I think the next phase is going to be just still consistency. I think the next phase of the work that we have to do, I think there's 2 things in relation to Stone Mountain, particularly. I think one of the first things that we need to do is hold their feet to the fire this next meeting. We went from a room that was very tiny with probably 1 to 2 people ever coming in front of the SMMA to a media circus, to them being in the papers and getting a lot of scrutiny and a lot of feedback and a lot of public outrage for the past, I don't know, about a year now. That's been consistent almost every month. We're not letting them forget. And we're holding them accountable, and we're showing up to the point where they even cancel meetings over and over because they want to run. They want to run away because it's uncomfortable. And they finally decided to at least acknowledge a failure on their behalf, to actually acknowledge this place needs to change, that it's not perfect, that it's not okay, that economically it is a loser. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of progress was made, but I think that we are at that phase where we have to say, okay, you said you knew you had a problem. You already have 50% loss, and you know that you have corporates who do not want to come. What are you actually going to do? That's the thing that we have to do now. And when they get these people in place, it is our job. That's the second phase, to push those corporations. We need to let them know that it's not enough change. We may need to stop talking to the SMMA and start talking directly again, as Brian has been doing, to the corporates and say, we need you to push a little bit more. Push a little bit more, because the public is not convinced that we have enough change. And so I think that that's one of the things we need to do, is hold their feet to the fire in the near future, because they've made some promises and we need to make sure we influence those promises. On the next meeting, there's supposed to be a vote by the board. And all of these things are supposed to come to fruition. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know how much the other side, the Confederates, have been putting in their needs, desires, wants, and wishes. But I know on the other side, who's trying to get rid of the Confederacy, we've been really very much at work trying to influence and push their proposal way further than what they already have. So we just got to hold their feet to the fire. That's the next phase.
And I mean, I think y'all are doing it now, because that's the biggest thing that we see in Georgia, because of all the poor decisions that's been made. The spotlight is all over Georgia. And I'm one of the people, I understand bad press is still good press. And I'm glad now the spotlight is on us from all the media companies and everything that was brought here from previous administrations, not the governors, but the mayors. And now, because they're talking about leaving or potentially stop doing some filming here or doing other work here, now everybody's saying, okay, well, let's just pause. Because truth be told, the only reason we even have the money that we have in this state right now is because of all the media and every production companies come here. Because once you leave outside of the metro area, where's the work at? I mean, the only thing they have is like farm areas. They don't even have access to even internet. So I'm like, so you have to focus on the businesses that, I mean, I'm being funny. I'm being dead serious. That once you leave outside the perimeter, there are hardly no jobs. There are no jobs. And I know this from people that I've talked to, especially these candidates I've had on the show. There are hardly no jobs. The major jobs only exist around the big metropolitan areas, which means that's where the biggest amount of your tax dollars are coming from. So either you're going to listen to the people, or you're going to listen to the corporations that the people are holding accountable to make the change necessary to actually show there's growth in this state. And it's for all the people, not just one set group.
Absolutely. Brian, what do you think what do you see as the next push or next stage levels?
Well, I think it's just continuing to be resilient in the pressure that we're applying, and just make sure, with whoever comes in over the next 9 to 12 months to manage, or if the MMA decides to just go towards just self-management, that's really where the pressure is, because they're not going to be able to maintain the park just by traffic going to the walk-up trail.
Right.
There's too much infrastructure within the park right now. They've overbuilt it for the traffic that they now have, and they know that. They're deferring every bit of maintenance they possibly can. And it's evident when you go see the place that they're deferring maintenance. So just continued pressure, and at some point we're going to break into Coke, and they're going to hear us, and they're going to do the right thing. It's just a matter of when. We just got to continue to do what we've been very resilient in doing for the past 12 months, and keep the pressure on.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I have decided and determined, on as a personal mission, as an advocate for change at Stone Mountain and just the removal of the Confederacy, is I feel that the people, based on what I saw in Decatur and so many other places, that the people, the everyday average people, the surrounding community can really, really rally together. And we as a state, city by city, town by town, we can rally together and create change. And I mean, despite these state laws that they keep pressing, it can still happen. And so one of the things that is essential, especially when it comes to legislation, we have to change the law. And it's going to take a movement of the people. It's going to take the average person being aware, seeing it in media, seeing it in social media, seeing that there is a advocate in every city and every town, especially the ones where Confederacy exists. There is a movement across the state that is saying, that's the old South, this is the new South, and we as a people demand better, especially with our public property and our taxes. We are not going to accept this anymore. This needs to become common sense across Georgia. And you know, whenever Georgia does anything, everybody else becomes a copycat, whether it's for good or bad. So Georgia needs to set the trend, especially now that we have this national spotlight. We have these 2 senators. We have a mayor, an outgoing mayor, who has gotten a national spotlight. And we know for a fact that Fulton and DeKalb County are on the national, view front. Yes, absolutely. And all the rest of these cycles, we're the only thing that's giving President Biden that power to make change or do whatever it is. So we have a lot right here in DeKalb County. We have a lot right here in Georgia that we can do, and we need a movement. We need the people of Georgia to stand up. So my expectation and my hope and view as just a personal desire is that the people start standing up. And one of the things that I want to do is to help to facilitate that movement. There's so many different people doing that work already in lots of places. And so we want to celebrate that, this movement, this creation of resistance in Decatur on Juneteenth, and celebrate the removal of the Decatur Monument despite the laws. We're bringing together people from across the state of Georgia, lots of different cities. Athens, they removed their Confederate monument. Lawrenceville, they removed theirs. All of these different people. What's that?
Douglas County Courthouse, we removed the monument as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we have Savannah, Macon, all these different people are doing this work. And we need to come together and we need to say, this is what I did. Now this is what you can do. Or how can I help you? We want to network. Right. We want to connect people across Georgia. So that is one of the goals, to build the momentum so that we can get legislation passed. And so that's just something, that's another phase, another level of the work.
I want to say too, while we're doing that, we can't expect to get the whole cake at one time though. We have to get everything in stages, because I know that's when we talked about, like, we have to, it's a wave. So you have to, in the whole baking process, you got to start in one area before you get the whole cake and have it done with the ice and everything over top. Understand that it's work to go into it, and there's phases that we have to get through to get to that point. But that doesn't mean that you stop mixing and continue stirring and you continue watching the oven while it's cooking. You stay active, you stay engaged. And I gotta put it out there. I gotta make it plain and clear here. You gotta stay engaged and you gotta watch it until the job is completely done. And that's when we can finally climb to the top of the mountain and speak on high heels and say, look at what we've done. And thank you all for everybody put your work in to get us to this place. Because right now we can celebrate in small stages, but we can't have a complete victory until everything is complete and it's done.
But I think sometimes people only feel like you're doing something when it makes the news. And sometimes you don't have a platform to really talk about what you are doing or what you have done. So I'm going to speak on something that happened personally last week. I helped a mother draft a very professional letter to our board of commissioners. So sometimes it doesn't have to be you're in the spotlight, and we draft a letter, once again, public property, where a parent at the Parks and Rec was really, y'all, making racial slurs to a 10-year-old African-American female at a softball game, to where the other parents started apologizing, but no coach, no volunteer coach of the Douglas County Parks and Rec even stood up or said this is wrong. So now we're talking about doing diversity and we did exactly what you said, May. We asked for what we want. We want safety, a public safety officer to go to the Parks and Rec games when they're outside of the county, because this happened outside of the county, but it's public, right? Then we want all of the volunteer coaches and parents and staff to go through diversity and inclusion training if you want your kid to play at the Parks and Rec in Douglas County. So we are asking for these things, and we did get a response from our county commissioner. We actually copied the Parks and Rec director on the letter. I mean, and we're just talking about, so you think it's small, but this to revolutionize what happens at other Parks and Rec, that no parent should have to deal with their child being intimidated, called names at a park when they just want to play softball. So these are the things that are happening in other cities that a lot of times they don't have a voice and they don't have a place that it gets to be seen, you know. And of course, we sent it through public, so if public email, so if records want to get requested, but those goes back to what you're saying. Make sure that we are demanding and that we are stating what we want, because they may not even thought about, you know, hey, and then I even said, maybe we should not play outside of our county. Maybe we should only play teams within our county. So just want to, you know, just say that things are going on in other places, and we hear you and we're listening and we're paying attention, and you're motivating us to rally behind other parents who are dealing with issues that you don't even know that people are going through. So thank both of you for your efforts, and let people know how they can get in touch with you. And Antonio, that's my thought. I just wanted to share that with you.
Right. So as we wind down, I do appreciate the discussion. And yes, I think, like we always talk, Tamika and I always talk about, get engaged and get informed, because you never know who you're going to meet and who you could be an asset to help somebody else out. Because even all the people that I've met outside of just politics, just getting out during protests and being active around the community, I met resources for a young lady that a show I have coming up. She was being sex trafficked, and she was asking just to get on the show, just so we could bring awareness to it. But one of the people I came in contact with, Marion Ahmad, she actually ran for office out here in DeKalb County. She actually works on a board, sits on a board to help out sex trafficked people and human trafficking people, and actually have lawyers that do pro bono work on there. And I connected both of those two together because the lady was trying to raise funds for a lawyer. So now she can use those funds to help towards mental health, because the young lady was going through it, suffering from mental health. She can use it for something else because now she actually has a lawyer to help represent her that she didn't have to pay for. So I'm like, for the community, you have to get involved. And I know, like we always say, you know, we have other things that we want to do. I spend time with my boys too when they're in town, and I don't get out all the time, but you don't have to do 8 hours. You can do 2 hours somewhere and make connections with people, because relationship is a good thing. We all see how important relationship is during this pandemic. Nobody wants to sit at home. You want to get out and be a part of people because you like the energy. You like to be able to communicate to other folks around you. So relationship is the key to human nature. So why not build great relationships, doing things that you enjoy doing, and actually fighting for a good cause that will help out not only your community, but help out the state as a whole. So as we wind down, y'all know how we do. You know how I do on the show. Tell everybody how they can find you all. And you know you have to leave with a positive thought. We have to bless over those that are tuning in. So Brian, I'm gonna start with you. If you want to tell people like what you're working on now, like what you plan on doing next, and how people, if you have a social media presence, because I'm sure you have a social media presence, how they can get in touch with you, if you want anybody to get in touch with you, and if you can leave us a positive word.
Absolutely. And thanks again for hosting us, Antonio and Tamika. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk to the both of you. You can always reach me at brian@removethehate.org. I'll continue to be doing my work, trying to change the park for good. And, you know, my positive statement for today is, you know, despite my pessimistic tone throughout the conversation, the change has been really positive. There's so many people doing lots of work. It's not just the two of us on this channel. There's lots of folks working really hard to try to make this be a better place for so many people around our community. And again, I've met a lot of great people, and that's one of the biggest benefits of doing work outside of your normal daily routine, is you meet folks that are just exceptional people, and it adds a lot of value to your personal life.
Mm-hmm. Miss May, if you can.
Absolutely. I'm grateful to be on the platform again, and thank you for giving us the space to talk about and discuss these very quickly changing events. And as far as contacting me, I'm on Facebook as Meymoona Freeman, so I can be contacted that way through Messenger. I don't have a public profile or anything like that, but I can be contacted that way. And I will be organizing Decatur Juneteenth. And it's amazing that Decatur wanted to partner on this event with Beacon Hill, which is the group I am working with. And it's going to be amazing to see a lot of different people from around Georgia and even outside of Georgia come together. So I hope that everybody will participate in that. And on a positive note, I think I would encourage everybody to participate in this change. Everybody needs to determine what particular realm of influence they have that it can push progress forward. Like what Tamika was saying, it may seem like small. Some of these things that we do, they're unseen, but they count because they inspire more people to stand up. They inspire more people to get to the table or to knock on the door. So every bit of progress, it all matters.
All right. And I am Tamika Day. Hashtag success is my superpower. 7 rules of life. Smile, be kind, don't give up, don't compare, avoid negativity, make peace with your past, and then take care of your body and mind. So that's all I have to share. Thank you.
And I'm gonna thank you all again for appearing on the show. And one thing I will say is, as I celebrate women in general, is don't ever let anybody tell you to stop your no. Don't listen to the no's, because just as a woman goes through a birthing process of bringing life into this world, never let anybody stop you from bringing purpose into your own life and birthing something anew. Because if you have a lot of pushback and a lot of discontent that's keeping you from moving forward, that means you're doing something great, as long as it's something positive. So continue to strive moving forward. Never let somebody stop you on your race, because at the end of the race, you will see the success and the victory that comes from it. And that's what we like to continue to celebrate. And like I always say, remember to take your daily doses of L's. You'll live, love, and laugh. And if you do that, you will have nothing but positivity and love within your own personal life and attract those things to you. I am Antonio Hicks, Mr. Escaping the Matrix. You can find me on ptgtv.online. And if you're listening on iTunes podcast, please leave a comment, like, and go watch us on YouTube. And follow us as well, too, because that's where the video will be posted. So thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you, my guests. Welcome back again, Tamika. I always love having you on to give your side of our views on things of discussion. And happy podcasting.
Thank you, guys. Have a